Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, booking, more booking opportunities in family and multi-generational travel. I'm Michelle Marie Arian, the managing editor of Recommend and your moderator for today's webinar, which has been made possible by Recommend as well as the following partners. Florida's Historic Coast, Florida's Paradise Coast, Fort Myers, Islands, Beaches and Neighborhoods, Visit Tampa Bay, Seabourn, and Universal Orlando Resort. This webinar is a complement to the Family Travel Trends Survey that was conducted on recommend.com, as well as a 2022 Family Travel Trends Report, which starting today is available for download from the handout section of the webinar. During this conversation with our panelists today, we'll speak about family and multi-generational travel trends and how COVID-19 has impacted what travelers are seeking when it comes to family travel. Before we begin, here are little housekeeping items. During the presentation, feel free to enter your questions in the question box on the right-hand side of the webinar. We'll gather them together and hold a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. If you missed something, don't worry, the webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a link via email to access the recording at your leisure. In addition, a link to the 2022 Family Trends Report will be included in the follow-up email, and it's also included in the handout section in the webinar. Now, let's start this webinar by having our panelists introduce themselves. Anna Swenson, you're up first.
Hey, I'm Anna Swenson. I am with Journeys Inc., and I'm based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been in the travel industry for about almost 15 years as a travel consultant, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Lindsay Holmes.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Holmes, the owner of Kingdom Destinations based out of Metro Atlanta. We specialize in family travel and honeymoons, all-inclusive, family traveling, domestic and abroad.
Thank you. Welcome, Lindsay. And Lauren Doyle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Doyle. I am the owner of The Travel Mechanic. We are a small boutique host agency based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And as our other colleagues here on the call, we specialize in family travel, honeymoons, destinations, and destination weddings, and just full service travel all over the world.
Thank you, ladies. Now let's jump right in. Our first question is, what has shifted in the family travel industry landscape due to the crisis we faced over the last couple of years? Who wants to go first?
Well, I will jump in.
No.
So, obviously we all know that the pandemic has just been a huge shift in people's mindset of travel. So, there are people that are still scared, afraid, everyone has their different comfort levels. And I think as travel advisors, we really need to share what we think and share how we travel now. I think it's so valuable when travel advisors get out there and travel with their families and are understanding about everyone's different comfort levels.
Lindsay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that has shifted is that people have now realized the necessity for travel advisors more than ever before. And so it's also important that as travel advisors that we are consistent in our messaging about what it is that we do and how it is that you're able to serve your clients, and not assuming that they know what your value is. And so you have to articulate that and articulate it well. And so making sure that you're sharing your experience when you're traveling, what you're doing for your clients, and how you're able to best serve them, overcome different barriers and challenges that that you were able to help solve through the pandemic, and even post-pandemic. What things might come up that you're able to serve new clients with? Why do they need your services now? And I think that that's exciting for us because before, I don't think that people realized that travel advisors were still a thing. That was something that we heard a lot. Like, I didn't realize that that was still a thing. I didn't know that people still booked with travel advisors. But when the pandemic hit, the people who didn't book with travel advisors were really wishing that they had. So.
Okay, the next
I'd also
question.
add, if I could add for that
Sure.
one, I'm finding that people are not putting off the big dream trips or bucket lists anymore. I think they've realized that, how important it is. They've lost 2 years of plus of travel. So like any special occasions, graduations, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just a great reminder how much family time is important, how making memories is important, and they've really been prioritizing that on the list of things to do and how to spend their money.
We're hearing that a lot about people booking bucket list destinations now instead of waiting for the future. Today's family travel client is so much more than mom, dad, and 2 young children. How do you define family travel? How can your peers look beyond the traditional family travel client, including catering to families with the older kids?
I'm finding like single parents with their kids, moms with adult children, cousins, and all kinds of multi-generational things. Grandparents taking their kids alone, just with the grandkids, which I've seen that some. I personally went on a trip just with my parents last year. So myself as the daughter and my parents, and it was wonderful. And I think it kind of back to what I just was talking about. I think it was like one of those things like, oh my goodness, we need to just spend more time with each other. And we had a wonderful time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yep, and just, to play on that, not taking time for granted, and taking advantage of the time that we have with our loved ones. So with the grandparents, inviting them to go along with you and your families, or with your clients and their families on that vacation, and maybe putting that in their ear and just kind of saying, have you thought about inviting grandma and grandpa to go? This sounds like a great opportunity if they may be interested, because we don't have an indefinite amount of time with our loved ones, and the pandemic did remind us of that. And then also thinking of opportunities that families might have with their children. So if there's a milestone birthday, like a Sweet 16, or when they turn 10, or a graduation trip that maybe mom and daughter could go on alone, or father and son, or mom and son, or just being creative and thinking of different opportunities that you can market for just kind of spurring different thoughts in your clients and potential clients' minds, that they can be like, oh, I hadn't thought about that. I would love to take my child and do that. Or even adult child and mom, just to spend time together that they might not have thought about without your idea. So staying connected with your clients on social media, and also in conversation with them as you're just on your fact-finding mission when they contact you, or if you stay in front of them in a newsletter or sending an email, just touch point throughout the planning process. And when they return from their trip, making sure that you stay connected with them and make sure that you have that good follow-up when they return. I hope that you had a great time. Let me know when you're ready for your next trip. And then maybe if after a month or 2 months and you haven't heard from them, reach back out and put some ideas in their mind for what kind of trip they can begin planning for their next trip. And just being creative in what kind of trips they may be interested in that they may not have thought of before, just because why not? That was kind of my thought, is what are some things that are unique opportunities that maybe they haven't done before, maybe we haven't done before, that would create really special experiences for them to have with their loved ones.
Yes. Okay, now thinking about the lessons we've learned during the last 2 years, how can your peers turn those into more booking opportunities?
So I think it is so important to be honest and transparent. As we've all lived through the pandemic, we've all went through different experiences, different mindset shifts. And I think just showing up that, yeah, it's not the easiest traveling with kids internationally. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell everyone, oh yeah, no, do it. You've got COVID testing to deal with. You've got vaccination or not vaccination, that whole thing that is around kids, and parents have their own thoughts on that. So I think just being honest and upfront with, like, this is what's going to happen, if you do test positive in destination. And I think just being really transparent will put people at ease. And obviously those that are willing to go ahead and take that risk, which I think is worth it, obviously, but I think just having those conversations with people upfront, I think they're going to, develop even more trust with you, and then they're more likely to purchase from you in the future, whether they're not ready right now or not. So it's just kind of being there for your clients, right? We don't work for the resorts or the tourism boards. We are here to offer personalized service. And I'm sure Anna and Lindsay feel the same way about that personalized service level. So that's how I think, we can kind of share the new lessons learned with our clients.
Anyone else?
I had two huge shifts and lessons learned I've learned from this time. Number one is keep close with your fellow agents. Definitely they're encouragers. Be someone to, my gosh, if I hadn't had some of my travel industry friends, I'm not sure I would have gotten through all of this. So that was really an important lesson that I've learned, and just a reminder, because I think we all get too busy in our own stuff. It's very important to connect with everyone in our industry, our peers. The other one, and this is probably a whole other topic, I'm just going to quickly go on, and we could probably talk a whole hour on that, but I have actually decided to, one of the lessons I've learned was, after not making money for 2 years pretty much, charging fees. So I've learned to work smarter, not harder. And I think that is huge, definitely making your schedule and your hours. And so we're not just killing ourselves working. But yeah, the whole
Totally
fees
agree,
thing,
Anna.
it's been very eye-opening. I just started in January, and it's been very successful. It's very I can't go on and on about how great it's been. It's just definitely reduced the number of tire kickers and really have helped streamline my time and my sales, honestly.
Yeah. I totally agree. If you're not charging fees, even if you specialize in family, I think that's so important to do that, because as Lindsay mentioned earlier on the call, our value is so important. And if you are unsure about charging fees, make a list of everything you do for your clients. I just had one of my ICs do this because she was worried about charging fees. And I just said, go ahead, write down all of your services. Once she started writing them all down, she's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, how are you not charging for that? So, little lesson that I think it's so important that we all get on the same page. We, really lift the travel industry as a whole to start charging those fees. You'll be happier.
Yeah.
And your clients will too.
How do you sell travel to your family clients?
Well, that's a very general question,
Yes.
but I would say I am all about Instagram. I just am on it every single day, and I've gotten so many clients from that. Now, when you think about family travel, a great way to connect with other families is to connect on a local level. So wherever you live, if you want to do Instagram, you want to get into those local hashtags, moms group hashtags, things like that, even posting the mom meme. I'm sure a lot of travel advisors are moms anyway. And, just connecting with other moms will help elevate your family travel business.
Lindsay?
And I would say you need to be traveling yourself as well, because you don't have a whole lot of credibility with people that are following you, your client base, your family, your friends, if you're not doing it yourself.
Totally agree.
Definitely. How do you use social? Well, Lauren, you kind of touched base on this a little bit. How do you use social media to gain new clients, specifically family and multi-gen clients?
Yeah, so I touched base on that, and I mean, I could talk about social media all day long because I love it. But I love it because I've had a return on investment, and the investment is my time, because we all know social media takes so much time. But like Lindsay said, travel with your family. During the pandemic, I traveled smack in the middle of it with my family. We did stay domestic because those were the early days where you really couldn't go anywhere. But just showing people the safety measures and what we did to remain safe. And then towards the end of the pandemic, I'm going internationally with my kiddos. At the time, they were not vaccinated. So that was the whole thing, that I was just upfront and honest, saying that this was my decision. I was scared to put out that decision into the world because you know how people are on social media. But honestly, there were no haters. Everyone is respectful on like your choices, and you move forward with it. So I do think that's really helped me build that trust, which I think is so important, by showing, yeah, it's not. Oh, I also showed my daughter having a tantrum at Castaway Cay, and people, I got the most responses because I'm like, yeah, it's not all perfect. So, you know, I show the real deal.
Being authentic is great. That's a good thing.
Anyone else use social media or have any tips on how you incorporate it to your business?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Facebook, I know it seems kind of antiquated at this point, but I am still finding those who are purchasing, grandparents, you know, middle-aged moms, you know, all that kind of thing. They're still huge, you know, I get a lot of business on Facebook. Of course, referrals is just the biggest one. And I always tell everyone, I tell the new agents, I tell anyone I ever say, don't be afraid to ask for a referral, because that is, you know, don't be, it may be awkward, but my gosh, you know, once you're at a party and they find out you're in travel, you know, that's what you talk about, you know, like it's such an easy, fun topic to do, and be like, hey, you know, don't be awkward about it. Just be like, if you have any, your family and friends ever want to travel, you know, who to call.
That's a good point.
Ask for the referral and ask for the sale too.
Yeah.
What are you selling more of today than what you were pre-pandemic?
I would say all-inclusives. I mean, I always sold all-inclusives, but when the pandemic happened, I did not realize how much Europe I was booking. I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. So I've really done a ton of all-inclusives because it's easy, it's safe, there's that guarantee there. It is like an easy sell for a family to go to an all-inclusive.
Yeah.
I personally done, which I never did pre-pandemic, US. So the Florida beaches, the South Carolina beaches, Arizona, you know, I'm trying just anything, you know, obviously family, theme parks, all of that. You know, I really was hesitant. I always kind of back in the day was like, oh, that's just not worth my time, which I mean, you know, sometimes it still isn't, but just to get that sale, so then hopefully they will, you know, go to Europe or wherever else, you know, the next time. So I think it was just to get everyone's toe in the water, and it's done well for me. So just, yeah, now I feel comfortable selling those destinations. Before I was like, I don't know which vendors to use, you know, that kind of thing. And now I'm a little bit more versed on that.
So for us as an agency as a whole, we're doing a ton more of FIT, just more custom per family type trips. And as I look into 2023, we're doing a tremendous amount more of trips abroad, whether it's you know, Europe or any other destination abroad, that people aren't waiting for that bucket list trip. Like Anna said earlier, they're going ahead and just taking advantage and booking it now because people don't want to wait anymore, but it's much more custom fit for their need and where they want to go. They want to hit all the highlights and very specific destinations or cities that they want to see, and trying to fit it all together.
That's awesome.
And actually my family is one of those, and we're doing it this year. We're going to be doing Israel, which will be awesome, but then we're throwing in Paris and London. So very random, but that's what I'm talking about. People are doing like these very random custom trips.
Cool.
What you said reminds me, just when you were talking about booking soon, I think if we can tell the travel industry, everyone wanting to travel, that how it's booked up, it's booking up to 2022 is booked, pretty much booked up, you know. 2023, let's start getting that on the book. So start putting that on social media. Like that to me has been a huge issue. You know, we are definitely, the pandemic had brought a lot of like last minute trips more than ever. Like, you know, people booking oh, I want to go in 3 weeks. Okay, now I feel comfortable right this minute. Can we go next month? That type of thing. Well,
Yeah.
so people are still doing that. Oh my gosh, they've got to start booking ahead.
Yep. So, because what happened is all of the trips got canceled and then it snowballed because they had to move their trip. And so now there is no availability with like sandals, for instance. There's like nothing if people are wanting to go now. And so you've got to book them ahead. Like if they know they want to travel, it's important that you get them to go ahead and make a deposit so they can secure the dates that they want with the room category or the resort or the location that they want so they don't miss out. Because I mean, the availability just isn't there for a lot of places if they have a very specific destination or place that they're looking to book.
Are you finding that your family and multi-gen groups still have any worries about traveling? And if so, what is their top concern?
Yeah, I think the top concern has been COVID, obviously, and getting stuck in destination. I've had a lot of, I do have a few families doing a customized trip to Europe and things, and they were just like, I mean, it was a lot of conversations about the insurance, exactly what that includes, the percentage up because it is not 100%, all of those things. And she wasn't completely comfortable moving forward until she fully knew all of the terms. So I think with families, because it's not just one person, you really have to go into those details and know your facts.
Which is hard to keep up with, isn't it? It's
Oh
so
my
hard.
God.
That's,
Yeah.
I think, our most challenging part of our job is keeping up with all the changes.
Anyone
Yeah.
else hearing any other concerns from their clients?
Another thing, if you have to bring this up, which we're both all three of us were chatting before, was the price. I think a lot of people are shell shocked or sticker shocked, whatever you call it, with the price. And I'm like, you're not going to go internationally for like $5,000 with your whole family all included. I mean, it's really tough. So it's unfortunate, right? Because yeah, I mean, the prices of 2020 and 2021 were amazing, but that is not here. I don't know if Lindsay and Anna, you're seeing the same thing, but it's expensive to travel.
Absolutely.
And that's, yeah, it's just a barrier for a family because you really have to you have to have the money and expendable income to really kind of put forth more money than I think what people understand. So again, that's educating the niche and educating travelers about the real deal cost here.
No discounts or specials right now.
Even airfare, I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
these people better deposit because it's going up by the minute.
Looking beyond the
True.
traditional, I'm sorry, Lindsay, you have something to add?
I just said it's true.
Oh, looking beyond the traditional family vacation destinations, what are some places you can recommend to your peers to keep top of mind?
And say, let's get cruising back on the board. Like get that top of the board. And the big CDC announcement yesterday, which we're super excited about, that yeah, they no longer are banning travel on the cruise line. So let's get them. I would say definitely keep that on the top of your list. I think it's pricing. I talk about pricing. I think pricing will still be pretty good for cruises. So to keep that on the top of the mind of the clients as well, if they're looking for something more affordable and are ready to get back on that ship.
Yeah. And honestly, guys, I traveled on a cruise with my kids during the pandemic and I felt so safe. Like I laugh because people have this conception of like, oh, it's a petri dish or whatever people say. But I was like, they're cleaning too much. Like this is too much over the top. And the mask thing, like it wasn't as bad as what you would think. But I really felt so safe. And I think just being honest with your clients will do wonders. So if you haven't gotten out on a cruise, I highly recommend it yourself. As Lindsay was saying, get out there and travel. Even if you do a quick 3-day, at least you're on there, you get so much content and then come back and share it.
I agree. I sailed on one of the inaugurals for the Odyssey of the Seas with Royal. I'm about to do another sailing, actually two more with Disney. And so I think that that's a great option to for you as advisors to get back on board, get some content to be posting about, and to build the consumer confidence with your clients and get them back on board. Like Anna mentioned, with the CDC removing the warning about contracting COVID on board the cruise ships. That's exciting because that's something that we've all been waiting for with the cruise industry. So I think that that's something that you can do to kind of help build that consumer confidence, is getting on board yourself, taking advantage of some of the great rates that you have access to as advisors. So I think that that's something that we should definitely be looking into to point our clients to, is considering that if they're willing. So it's a great option. And it will help the local tourism in some of the countries that it'll be visiting, and they have really been hurting the last couple of years. And so from that perspective, it's a win-win too.
Yeah.
Are your clients inquiring more about celebratory type vacations with the whole family?
Yeah, I hesitate because I think there are still challenges with my big multi-generational trips are all like 2023. Just because you do need a certain amount of time to plan availability. I've seen, I'm booking a lot of families, but it's more their core families. And I just, hopefully I could see it changing for sure, but that's just part of it, because you have to get the whole family on board, and sometimes that's tough with everyone's schedules. So typically I usually book big multi-generational trips further out, but that's just me. I mean, I'm sure Anna and Lindsay might have different experiences and timelines.
So the challenge for us is the larger multi-gen, just because maybe not everybody has been vaccinated, for instance, with some of the requirements, depending on the location that they want to go to. And so everybody may not be able to attend, depending on how large we're talking about. And so that's one of the barriers that we're experiencing. And so we have been focusing on some of the smaller options that I was describing earlier. Like, what are some of the special opportunities that you can kind of highlight, like mom and daughter, grown adult daughter with mom, those kind of things. So that's what we've been kind of thinking through. And yes, people have been inquiring, but like Lauren was saying, those we're looking into 2023. But they're definitely still happening, for sure.
Yeah.
Are your family clients already planning their summer vacations, and where are they heading to?
Definitely. If they don't, they better get on it.
Right around the corner, right?
Yeah, I'm actually seeing, I looked it up, and because I was curious myself where I've booked this summer. So basically Hawaii cruises back on track. Of course, the Caribbean, Jamaica, Turks, Mexico, definitely theme parks, obviously huge for the families and multi-gens. And a couple actually doing Mediterranean cruises as well. So I think they're feeling, that's kind of like they're getting back into Europe by feeling safer with the cruise. I'm actually going on with a bunch of people to Greece, the Italy, Greece, Mediterranean this summer. So, and again, that's back to the thing, like we're literally celebrating high school graduation, celebrating someone's 50th birthday, someone's 25th wedding anniversary, like literally like the whole group, like we're all like, okay, we're all gonna celebrate this at once. So
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Anyone else? Are road trips still as popular as they were during the height of the pandemic and the pre-vaccines?
I hope not. Being in North Carolina, I'm sure, Anna, too, you have a lot of people driving to Disney or driving to Port Canaveral to hop on a cruise. So for the people that are a little hesitant about air travel, we've been consistently selling Disney and, drivable destinations. But I say get on a plane. It's been 3 years and, jet set with your family off.
I would say gas prices are kind of scaring some people
Yeah.
away from, like, I think a lot of people bought like RVs and such, I heard, back in pre-pandemic. And I think that's flipping and changing now, where people are now like, we're done with that,
Definitely
pricing is
not.
high. Yeah.
How are your cruise bookings now as they relate to your family clients? I know we've touched a little bit about cruise, but especially with the announcement yesterday.
Our cruises were holding strong, but they're about to explode. I just know it.
I agree.
You're getting ready.
Yeah, we have a group going out on AMA. We also have a bunch of older, cruises, not family cruises. I have not had a ton of family cruises, but I think because of the vaccine requirement, I think there's other barriers there. But I hope that, it will pick up. And just like Lindsay said, I am so hopeful and I know it's gonna happen.
We're gonna help that happen because we're all gonna sail, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, totally. I got inspiration just from being on this panel.
Yes.
I've seen I think you talk about like the older generations have been cruising more, like on the Vikings, and I actually had clients go to Antarctica a couple weeks ago on the Viking ship. So I think back to, they're like, we're older, we've missed 2.5 years of travel, we've got to get out there. So that's where I'm seeing, some of those older ones, they're not scared anymore. They're like, let's just go.
Yeah.
The boomers.
The boomers are
Mhm.
the boomers are back.
What would you say are some essentials for planning the perfect family vacation?
Oh wow, we could have done a whole panel on this, right? For specializing in travel. Oh gosh, there's so much. I would say obviously packing appropriately. I think that's a huge thing. And also building up the suspense with my kids. I really include them in all the parts of planning travel. Where should we go? Talking about it far out. Doing countdowns, things like that on a kid level. I mean, I was a teacher before, so I get really into the little activities, but I was a teacher prior to being an advisor, but I really find that, building up their suspense, because at the end of the day, as adults, we live through them in a way, and them experiencing new places allows us as adults to experience it in a new way, in a kid fun way. So, I think it's so much. Obviously, the packing piece is huge, so you're prepared, but also depending on your ages of your kids, empowering them to, okay, you need 5 pairs of underwear, you need this, because it does give that independence and ownership of the trip. It's not just them tagging along.
I think one thing, Lauren, everything you said is awesome. One thing that I think people forget, but as advisors, helping our clients keep their expectations just in check too, just to have realistic expectations and to plan for the unexpected. To make room for things not to go as planned, and that the perfect vacation is still going to have unexpected things to happen, or you may not have time to be able to do every little thing, and maybe don't over plan it, especially if it's a theme park based vacation. Don't over plan your time, because then it's not any fun, because you're going to be rushing from one activity to the next, and then you're going to need a vacation from your vacation. And so just, be careful with the expectations, is what I would say also.
I was going to say the same exact thing. As long as we can, there's no perfect vacation. I don't care what you say. Like, there really is no perfect vacation. But definitely managing expectations. I mean, resorts are still short staffed. Like the airlines lines are crazy. Just those things to help mentally prepare them. Get to the airport 3 hours early for international. It may sound crazy, but you don't want to rush and miss your flight and drag your kids everywhere and be stressed out. So definitely, yeah, prepare your clients, manage expectations, pack your patience.
Lauren, you mentioned packing and talking them through it. Do you give out to your clients like packing suggestions or a packing list or anything like that?
Yes. Years ago, I did a packing video. It's so cheesy. It's probably
Oh,
somewhere on YouTube. I don't want anyone to look it up, but I am doing a new series.
Oh, I'm going to look it up.
I know,
I
like, no
think we all are.
um, but I'm like such a big believer in packing, but I pack light. People think I'm seriously crazy with that. Even my husband gets annoyed. But I make my kids carry, and my kids are 5 and 8, and I make them drag their own luggage, like within reason. But I think packing activities, snacks for the kiddos, and then I use packing cubes. Huge time saver, especially with kiddos. Everyone has their own packing cubes, and as I was saying before, they pack them up. Get your 5 pairs of underwear. You need 5, yeah, probably 5 bathing suits, that type of thing. I like make my kids do it. Of course, I check it over and roll it in there, but I think giving them that ownership helps them buy into the trip and the vacation in itself, because I'm raising little global citizens and world travelers, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are. I have a big passion for it, and I think having that ownership kind of just makes it more fun.
I love it. What would you say is important to understand when booking a multi-gen vacation versus a family vacation?
Well, you need to know who's paying. Because I feel like, when the grandparents contact me, they're most likely paying for the trip. But I have had experiences where, like, my age client contacts me and then says, well, my parents are coming and we have little kids. So I think knowing who's kind of paying and the budget is huge when doing a multi-generational trip.
I think understanding all the
I
likes.
also think that.
Okay. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I was just gonna say, I also think that you need to be just really intentional in some of the details when working with a supplier, for instance, and you're planning excursions. If it's going to be a trip abroad, and making sure that it's something that everybody in the family can participate in and enjoy based on their activity level. If it's a big range from a child to grandma and grandpa, you want to make sure that everybody's going to be able to have fun and not feel excluded or left out in that activity because their physical activity level can't match what the excursion is. And so maybe asking some preliminary questions in your initial phone call to get some information on everybody's activity level and what people can and can't do would be really helpful and important, so then they're not surprised and disappointed when they get on site to do some of those activities.
Similar to that, I mean, I think in a multi-gen vacation, there are just so many different personalities and so many people likes and dislikes. So definitely, like you said, keeping that in mind when you are doing that phone call. Yeah, and also the grandparents, if they are paying, they are planning it, they're not as tech savvy. So that's always been a little bit of a challenge, especially if you're looking at something like Walt Disney World, with all of that stuff. Even the cruise lines now have all those apps, and so it's like everything is electronic, not even paper tickets anymore, that type of thing. So I think that's just something to keep in mind and understand and be patient on, and that's definitely a thing. And obviously they just want to make sure they get their money's worth, then make those memories with their families. That's the most important thing for especially older grandparents or parents taking their kids.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about this, but the products. There are certain products out there in the travel industry that are really good for multi-generational trips. And before we started the panel, Lindsay and Anna and I were talking about the different products like Adventures by Disney or Talc Bridges programs, maybe a monograms. I don't really book that, but I did for this family because it made sense for them. So I think you just as an advisor have to have an open mind. When you are selling multi-generational travel, you need to, kind of think about all the other products and educate yourself what's out there in the industry.
Yep. Yeah, don't book something over and over again just because you're familiar with that one supplier. Really qualify your client and try to fit them into the box of the supplier. And where is the supplier's strength and who do they cater to? And then put your client into that box. Don't try to force your client into where your comfort level is and do your research and your homework on the different suppliers and try to see where your client would be the most comfortable.
That's a good point. Do you encourage your family clients to plan 5 years, have a 5-year plan ahead of time? And if so, what are the main points that you need to consider?
So I have a 5-year travel plan personally.
For yourself?
I know it sounds crazy. It's actually hanging on my desk over there. But I don't actually book people 5 years out, but I do speak to planning and budgeting. Just as we said before, just there's inflation everywhere and it's in travel too. So if they really do want to take their whole family to Hawaii, you've got to budget and start saving for that, and just kind of knowing mentally if that is something you want to do, especially when the kids are under your roof. There's only like, I don't know, 10, 15 years of that. And it goes by so fast. So, I think it's very smart to talk to clients and kind of give them inspiration on having a 5-year travel plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mean booking them 5 years ahead. I just meant like, do you work with them and getting like a bucket list or a wish list that
Yeah,
you can work off of?
totally.
Anyone
I
else?
think it's a great idea. I've actually never thought about it. I mean,
Really?
me personally, with our family, we've always allowed our kids to help with the planning. Be like, okay, where would you like to go for your 16th birthday? Okay, how about, Hawaii, when do we want to go to Hawaii? And, that type of thing, like kind of planned out. But actually to have a plan, I think is pretty smart to start talking that to our clients and giving them that idea that, okay, this year you're doing this, but let's think about, next year's and next year's up, that kind of plan them out and space them out. Makes total sense.
Tie them into future milestones coming up, maybe. At this moment, travelers still have to test to get back into the United States. If that were not the case, do you believe that Europe bookings would go through the roof? What are some of the more popular destinations your clients are asking you about?
Yeah, if we didn't have to test to come back into the United States, I think Caribbean, I think family travel would be increased. I think that's a huge barrier to family travel.
Rica, like people asking about Costa Rica. I don't know, we hadn't mentioned that one yet, but that's one that people, for whatever reason, and we were talking about like Barbados and Grenada, like some of those ones that are more difficult or their lift is harder to get to. But once that opens up, I mean, definitely Europe, of course, all of those will just open up, and we think we're busy now, and just wait.
Oh,
Just
right.
wait.
Are there any particular destinations in Europe they're inquiring about now or not yet?
Yeah, I mean, Italy is just always popular. If you have to
Yeah.
pick an, destination in Europe, it would be Italy. And yeah, that's been picking up. Not so much for family, just honeymoons, just inquiries have been increased for sure.
Right.
Italy, it's on people's bucket list. And a lot of people have heritage there and things like that.
All challenges create opportunities, and we spoke about this a little bit at the beginning. And this crisis really has shown travelers the importance of travel advisors and what you do. What should your colleagues do to make sure travelers understand the importance of your role?
Well, I think we talked about fees. Anna brought it up, and I'm so glad she did, because I do think that we sell a service, guys. So you need to charge for that service. And I think that really kind of differentiates us as not just an order taker, right? We're really here to curate amazing experiences for our clients, and we're all passionate about it. So I do think, the way to tell your clients that is by saying, yeah, I do have a planning fee of X amount. And then, that kind of sets the stage. And then I find that I even do better work. I really, make sure they paid for my service. So now this is not just, we're going back and forth and wasting time. Like, this is the real deal. And my customer service and just whole thing within our business has just elevated.
Completely agree. Yeah. I think just never underestimate the power of marketing, like, is one of the things, just keep the marketing, definitely talked about, getting out there, like we just talked about, and traveling, and then just reminding them how you're helping a small business. We've all been through a lot, and just that makes them feel good about their decision to help a small business, a local business, versus doing it online, I think is also something to remind our clients that, and makes them feel good about, giving us the business as well.
Yeah, and like I was saying earlier, don't assume that they know what it is that you do. And it's our job to be articulating that and to tell them. So always convey that, whether it's in conversation one-on-one, whether it's on social media. And you also have to make sure that when you're talking to a potential client, that you're stating up front your process so they understand what's expected of them as the consumer. And so don't assume that they even know what the expectation is of them, meaning that the end goal is that they will be booking with you. So some people will walk away from a conversation with you thinking that you've given them all of this free advice when the end goal is that they're going to pay a fee, potentially, if you're going to charge a fee, and then they will book the trip with you. Not that you give them this advice, you've offered this information at the beginning of this conversation, and then they walk away, book it direct, and then they come back and they say, okay, I've booked this trip. Now will you answer these questions? You have to walk them through from the very beginning and have this, verbal contract of, okay, so this is how it will work working with me. It's A, B, C, D. So a lot of people make the mistake of assuming that they know how it will work to work with you, but you have to state it up front. And it doesn't have to be, okay, so the understanding is that you will book with me. It can be very nice, like, okay, thanks so much, for contacting me. This is how it'll work. So once we narrow down a package that works with you and your family, you just let me know, and then I will contact you to get your billing information. I will then apply the deposit, which will be due by X date, and then your final payment will be due on X date, in which time I will contact you again to make sure that you're ready to make that deposit or that final payment, however you want to phrase it, but you just make sure you articulate it that you're the one that will be processing the payments. And they understand, oh, okay, so she will be doing this, he will be doing this. I don't actually do it myself. So don't ever make assumptions that they know. The job is yours to over communicate with them what your role is and what the relationship between you and them will look like.
That's a good point. Anna, you mentioned a little bit about marketing yourself, and I know we mentioned bringing it up in conversations at parties, and Lauren spoke a lot about social media use, but what are some other ways that you all market yourselves to get new clients?
I actually have had a lot of great experience networking locally. So I'm a member of a local women's business association, and we just cheer each other on. So yes, like Anna said, you need to find your people in the industry, but I think also outside the industry, and that's been really beneficial because other business owners, we cheer each other on too. So that's been kind of, during the pandemic that it wasn't as apparent, but now people are back out there, and I encourage you locally to find a in-person networking group, and that could really do wonders for your business.
That's great advice.
Not even necessarily like I totally agree with you, but I even say like just partner in general, like with, like at my realtor, like she like literally gives me so much business because she knows so many people. So like even just partner with in one-on-one with people, I think can be very valuable as well. Like I think you mentioned something about partnering with a boutique for a Instagram, giveaway, that type of thing. Like there's always all kinds of out of the box things you can do with other people around you that you can support. Again, supporting that small businesses, supporting each other, I think is really important.
Yeah. It's
Great
not
tip.
talked about as much, but I definitely think there's so much value in it.
Now we're ready to take some comments and questions from the audience. So let's see what we have. If anybody tuning in has any questions that you've thought about while we've been speaking, now is the time to put them in the question box. The first one I have is from Liz Busang. She says, after the cruise, we then plan to go to Universal Studios for 3 days. My kids and I haven't been yet, but my dad is in a wheelchair, very limited ability to stand. I hear it is extremely difficult to get around Universal with a wheelchair. Can someone address this, as we are sad to leave my parents behind? Not that they would ride rides, but we would like them to watch the boys in their excitement.
Should they contact their travel advisor and find out, or Universal on that one?
You can, I mean, you can also, you know, rent an ECV. You can also go to guest relations and talk with them about the disability service and see what accommodations that they might be able to offer you that day. You can explain to them what your individual need is, and they can work with you on an individual basis and see what they might be able to do to be able to accommodate you.
Yeah, I believe also if you're in a wheelchair or have some disability, sometimes you can skip the line or skip part of the line and go in easier. They have like a back way in or sometimes.
Yeah, it's a case by case basis depending on what your need is.
Thank you. The next one is from Christy Almeg. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the last names. How are you charging for the fees? I don't use GDS.
So I run the fees through our CRM, client management tool, and everything's run through that, invoicing direct or with supplier.
Invoicing, we do our CRM as well, but we actually, to get the actual fee, we're using Square, which has been very helpful.
And Darlene Marsh is asking, do you sell villas for families? 2 families.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, what? I didn't.
Do you sell villa stays to families?
I've run into some issues with that because the cancellation is very strict. And once I kind of start talking to multi-generational families, they actually, and comparing the cost, more than likely they end up at an all-inclusive. But, you know, it's definitely, I don't advertise it because it's not my #1 specialty. But if a client's asking for that, we can see what we can do.
And Darlene also made a comment to let your clients know how you get paid. Is a good point. The communication to your clients. Darlene also sent another comment that she advertises in 55+ community newsletters.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Excellent.
Deborah Smith is asking, is there a script that would help her in articulating asking for a service fee?
Yeah, I'm sure. I know there's a few other fellow agents. I know they've kind of put out webinars and things about charging fees because I feel like that's a whole thing in itself. But as I said before, like I tell my ICs, write down all of your services and then practice saying it. Practice kind of, I don't want to say sales pitch, but you've got to get it in your mind on what you want to convey to them. So, you know, I always do a free consultation call. So I encourage my prospective clients to set up a call with me, like Zoom or on the phone. And then on that call at the end, I go ahead and let them know the fee.
I would say definitely write a script out. You know, I'm sure, like you said, I'm sure there's some out there, but just, you know, what exactly, why you're doing it, that kind of thing, and just start practicing it, get familiar with it. So then when you're actually talking to the clients, then you're not stuttering and you're like, oh, you know, I'm sort of doing a fee now, you know, and just make it awkward. Be like, this is, you know, this is the fee. Just like any other business out there, this is what it is. But just keep on practicing that script. I personally send, when someone contacts me, I send an email that actually kind of gives a little briefing about it, that we are charging a fee. Here's my consult, you know, let's schedule a complimentary consult call, and, you know, and then also get their information so I'm prepared and know exactly what they're talking about, so I know how much to charge and that kind of thing before we actually talk. And honestly, most of the times, I would say 99% of the times, if they're going to do a call, they're going to book and they're going to pay that fee. So I'm just really, yeah, I can't say enough about that. I actually, like I said, I just started this in January after attending another agent's webinar who was amazing. And I haven't looked back, and I'm very happy with it.
And just to add on that about having a script, every agent needs to have their own elevator speech. whether it's about a fee or whether it's about your service in general or combined, just so you're not over talking because you don't want to sound desperate. You need to have just a sentence or two that explains your why, like what it is that you do, why they need to book with you, but just very brief and to the point. So you can begin thinking about that too.
The fees is a hot topic in the question box. Anna, you mentioned your emails that you send out letting them know about your service fee, but Patricia Smith is asking, when do you ask for the service fee? So any of you have any other ways that you bring that up?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Anna said she puts it out there up front. I wait till the call because I have it all set up in my CRM. I use TravelJoy. So it's just kind of a flow of getting the money, doing a recap in writing, explaining my terms and conditions with my service fee. It's kind of just all in there. So I'm covering everything because when you have a call, people are not always remembering what you say. So I always follow up with it in writing, get the fee with the terms and conditions. My fees are non-refundable. So, I make sure that's very clear up front. And then they are off on my workflow, so to speak.
After I send the email and then I talk to them at the end of it, and again, like Lindsay spoke about earlier, I don't give away the farm. I basically say, I have some awesome ideas. I'm so excited, ready to, get started. Would you like to proceed? My fee is X, and then I'll send you the invoice. And they're like, yeah, definitely. So that's kind of how my process works.
That's awesome. Lori Wilson is asking, do you think it's important to niche down even further than just family travel? She says, I sell family travel, but wonder if I should also market that I do family travel in Mexico and the Caribbean, for example.
Yeah, I think so. Because family travel is so broad. We have tons of Disney specialists out there that live and breathe Disney, and I love that for them. But I am not going to touch a Disney trip. So, you just got to know your passions and know what you do. And yeah, I totally think you can really niche down and, do it by destination and by, type of travel, family, multi-generational, and then just get really good knowing all of the Caribbean or just Mexico. And, there's just so much in each destination.
Good tip. Another one about the fees. Patricia Smith, do you charge a flat fee for all clients, or is it different depending on fit, groups, or multi-gen?
Mine's different. I have a little scale depending on what it is and how much time it takes.
And I think that's it for our questions. Anybody else have any last minute questions they want to send on our way? Sorry, just checking if anything else is coming in. Okay, I think that's the end of our webinar. Thank you all for attending today's webinar. Thank you so much, Anna, Lindsay, and Lauren, for sharing your expertise and your tips with us. It was very helpful and very insightful.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great afternoon.